They like to roll the dice. By chance they came upon Devil's Game, and gosh, they paid the price. Paid the price.
Before anything else is said, know this. Cuphead is fantastic. Cuphead is unique. Cuphead deserves your money. This needs to be said clearly, as if you simply compare the list of pros and cons on their own, it's unclear whether or not this game is worth buying. The game is a wonderful experience, but it's also a flawed experience with a multitude of little teething problems. These problems are ultimately worth bearing, but they are also worthy of discussion. Cuphead is a retro-inspired 2D shooter in the vein of games like Contra and Mega Man. Our heroes, Cuphead and Mugman, have run afoul of the devil and must collect soul contracts from his debtors in order to secure their own freedom. The game is structured via a series of boss fights which can be cleared in a flexible order, with the odd side-scrolling shoot-'em-up level thrown in every now and again. The main driving force of the experience is not the narrative, it's the simple desire to see whatever jaw-dropping visual spectacle the game has to offer next. Something that should be obvious if you have seen even a few seconds of Cuphead in action is that the game looks amazing. The sheer amount of love and attention to detail in every frame of hand-drawn, cell-based animation is staggering. Every character and enemy has a unique flavour and personality, while maintaining a consistent style which ensures that, no matter how outlandish the design, every character belongs in this world. At times it's possible to suspend your disbelief and start forgetting that this was even made today. That's how authentic and thorough the 1930s aesthetic is. This aesthetic comes with its own pitfalls, however. The frame is so busy and the animation so fluid that it can sometimes become difficult to distinguish threats from background noise, and to identify the exact hitboxes of threats once they can be distinguished. Colour becomes an issue at times as well. Cuphead can parry certain projectiles and enemies, which are distinguished by their pink colour. In some fights it can become difficult to quickly ascertain what is parryable and what isn't. Because of this, also, the game is particularly unfriendly towards the colourblind, and has no colourblind options in the graphics settings to boot. The soundtrack is wonderful, featuring a slew of big band jazz numbers which perfectly complement their environment. The driving, rhythmic beat of the Phantom Train theme, the bombast and fast-paced plodding of the Goupy Legrand theme, the lazy melodic theme of Jimmy the Great. I for one will be listening to the Cuphead soundtrack for many months to come. Other elements of the audio design are not quite as magnificent. The sound effects for Cuphead's shooting and the pop of defeated enemies are somewhat underwhelming and unsatisfying, and in general the shooting lacks a tactile punch. The game's difficulty curve is honestly pretty confused. One of the first bosses you encounter ranks among the harder fights in the entire game, and yet some of the later bosses rank among some of the easiest. The run and gun levels can be rather obnoxious and sometimes cheap, and certain combinations of boss attacks can lead to unavoidable damage. It feels as if Cuphead's difficulty was less of a deliberate design choice from the start, and more of a way of compensating for how short the experience would have been otherwise. That is not to say that the difficulty isn't generally well executed, it is, but it also feels more like a design necessity rather than anything else. Levels are generally trial and error, with the early runs being more reconnaissance than any serious attempts at completion. For the most part this works fine, but it can get irritating when the necessary reconnaissance is simply trying to work out which visual effects damage you and which don't. If you have a cognitive or motor disability that creates difficulties and frustrations with more difficult games, I would have to tell you not to buy Cuphead. It does have an easier mode, but sadly this mode cuts off content after a certain amount of time, making the regular difficulty necessary for further progression. I completed the game in about 10 hours, and I am a thoroughly mediocre game player. If the aesthetic appeals to you and you're willing to be patient and persevere through the game's more obnoxious difficulty spikes, I would unequivocally recommend Cuphead. It's a special game and deserves to be played.